Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Bike Chat. My name is Jonah DePasquale. I am so grateful to have you, the listening audience, with us this evening. We have a fantastic show in store. We have an unbelievably talented female adventure athlete extraordinaire. My goodness, I just many descriptors on this evening's show. But before I get into that, I do want to take a few minutes and introduce my awesome co-host, Mr. Gunnar Soros. Gunnar is awesome. He does great things. He's a craft beer lover, a cyclist, and does a phenomenal job at running a great show Tuesday evenings called Craft Beer Blab that you want to check out. But enough about me. How about you, Gunnar? Gunnar, what is going on, my friend? Hey, great show, by the way. It's not loco to drink loco. Love that. Really fun. Got some good feedback out of that. And audience, again, if you're not remembering it, didn't catch that, link up to the replay. He does an awesome job. So, Gunnar, talk to me. What's going on in Rochester, Minnesota?
The weather is beautiful here, and I know that you'll get that weather in a couple of days because it seems like what we get here, then you get in a couple of days.
I love it, man. I love it.
Some awesome weather. It's going to be great.
Okay.
Sunshine and just clear skies and not too windy and just great for riding. So get out on that bike.
I feel like there should be like a green screen behind you, and today, cloudy with a chance of meatballs and cheeseburgers.
And we have the high pressure, and we have this ridge of something coming here.
Oh my God, I think we've completely scarred the Bike Chat audience for the evening. They're never gonna see oh my God, I tuned in to see some awesome adventure cycling gal, and these crazy guys are talking about spaghetti meals. All right, enough about that. So listen. Bike Chat listener audience, before we get too crazy, a couple things. I do want to encourage you to tune into the Facebook page. Again, Bike Chat is on Facebook. As you want to kind of keep up to speed with who is coming on and what is going on, please do us a favor. Join us on Facebook. Also, again, back to Craft Beer Blab. There is an awesome Facebook page for Craft Beer Blab. Tune into that. And if you really want to know what is going on, sign up for the newsletter. In regards to the show, the few people that are tuning in right now live, that is awesome. But if you are watching this on replay, big Bike Chat round of applause to you. You can actually, if you're watching this live, share that out. It does say share the last 30 seconds. And of course, please, as always, we do welcome your questions, comments, and concerns. This is the About You, all about for you Bike Chat venue. So without further ado, it gives me great pleasure, Bike Chat family, to introduce none other than Sonya Looney. I have to say, without question, this young gal has more going on in her social feed than I can probably get done in a day having 3 kids. I did say 3 kids. They may have more kids than me, but that's all beside the point. So, Sonya, good evening. Welcome to Bike Chat. How are you? It is such a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you.
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm actually kind of jealous of the sunny...
Right. See, exactly.
Minnesota weather here.
We should all be so lucky. That's fantastic.
I had my bike clothes on. I was all ready to go out, and it was pouring rain. And, there are certain days where you just have to HTFU and go out there. But for recovery rides, I'm no, I'm just going to not do that today.
I know.
Instead, I'm selling a bunch of my bikes right now. So instead, I worked on my bikes, which is all good.
But see, now, it's funny you say that. Because I remember a couple shows back, and I know Gunnar, for some crazy reason, I'm in Rochester, New York, and Gunnar's in Rochester, Minnesota. So ironically, the weather he gets, usually we end up getting. So it works both ways. If it's raining in Rochester, Minnesota, and it's not raining in Rochester, I'm happy because I'm riding and it's not raining. But ironically, guess what happens the next day? It's raining in Rochester, New York, and not raining in Rochester, Minnesota. I think the funny thing about it is getting to my point is about the rain. Isn't it? I don't want to say sad, but isn't it funny how when you get to a certain point in your I don't know, bike career or I don't know, whatever, isn't it amazing how you're just you're it's raining, I'm not gonna ride my bike. But do you not remember when you were a kid, you're hey, it's raining, fucking hey, let's go ride, I don't care. Yeah. You didn't care. And you're in shorts, t-shirts, you're going through every puddle you can find out. You're whoa,
yeah,
don't want to get the bike dirty. Have to put on the Impervia Gore-Tex super blasting, face gore. I mean, it's I don't know. Maybe that's me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just exaggerating, but I don't mind getting wet. I can't even say it. I don't mind getting wet, but I think that's definitely. I do try to avoid those wet style rides. I mean, unless I'm racing, that's a whole other story. But I don't know. Enough of that. So, Sonya, fresh off of a major whirlwind of travel, and
Yeah,
I just, hey, by the way, listener audience, if you're not on Snapchat, do yourself a favor. Number one, get on Snapchat. Number two, if you do want some really awesome, kind of behind the scenes of what's going on in Sonya, Looney, again, world, definitely follow her Snapchat feed. I feel like it is kind of
follow my Snapchat, people. There it is. It's backwards, but you gotta get on there.
Yep, screenshot.
Oh yeah, that helmet is actually dead.
Oh.
I was in New Zealand, crashed on my head in this beautiful Cask American flag helmet. It stayed in New Zealand actually, but some friends of mine wanted to keep it to do a memorial to the helmet and to my my screw up. So what they did, I crashed off a bridge, and what they did is they went to this bridge, they stuck a bike upside down actually, and they put a sign saying Looney's epic fail on this bridge where I crashed on my head. And they all stood there with their hand over there. It was pretty good.
I mean, it's like you said, it's like an honor, but yet it's sort of comical. So you're like, yeah. Thanks. I mean, obviously, fortunately, you're okay. But the good news is,
I have to take the heckling. You know what? Like, life is too short to be too serious.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
I gotta be careful because they've opened up a can of worms. Now they're gonna have to deal with me giving them the gears, which I don't know if they're gonna be so happy about this.
That is awesome. So, as I said, listener audience, if you get yourself on Snapchat, definitely give Sonya a follow. So, I mean, again, you have, first of all, again, a very busy schedule to say the least. And I guess if we can kind of not to really dive directly into any one particular venue, but my goodness, you were just in Africa, right? If I'm not mistaken, right? And how did that whole whirlwind go about to get you there? And I guess what was the particular race venue that you were going to that really kind of drew you to go to that venue? Because I mean, that's, first of all, that's a huge undergoing to get yourself and all your gear, your bikes over there to race, and then obviously back to the States again.
Yeah, so I don't know. I fortunately, my dream has been to travel the world racing my bike, and I've really been able to do that in the last 3 to 4 years. So you just kind of get used to it. It's like the people that commute to work 1 hour each direction every day. The thought of that is like awful for me, but if you do it, you're just used to it and you do it. So for me, like commuting on a plane to the other side of the world, I'm pretty used to that. But going to South Africa was something I've always wanted to do. I've raced my bike across the Sahara Desert in Morocco before, but I really wanted to get back to Africa, because South Africa is most notably one of the most impressive and booming endurance sports countries in the world. Right. And they have over 40 stage races, which I didn't know. I've just learned that reading Tread magazine, which is one of their local magazines.
Right. Wow.
So initially I was going to go do the Cape Epic because that's a stage race everyone's always heard of. That's like out of for 100 milers, people always ask you if you've done Leadville. It's like a trademark 100, same as Cape Epic, a trademark stage race. Yeah. And I had a teammate, we were supposed to go race, but then she ended up not being able to go along. And it's really hard to find a replacement because how many people actually can take the time off of work and want to make a commitment to travel and take all their time to go to Africa to race with me in a really hard race. So it ended up working out perfectly that I found out about this Joburg to Sea stage race, which is the name of the one I did.
Okay, nice.
Tread magazine actually commented and sent me an email saying, hey, like, you're not doing Cape Epic, you should check out the Joburg to Sea, and I actually think it's more your style. So I checked it out, and I discovered it's a 900-kilometer, 9-day stage race, starting in Johannesburg, which is the largest city and the finance capital of South Africa, which is a sleepy coastal resort town on the Indian Ocean. Right. So it's a 900-kilometer point-to-point stage race, which I really like because a lot of stage races end up doing like loops and going point to point every day is a little bit hard on you because you got to pack up every day and move, but you get to see like the widest range of a country, and that's the best way to see the world. Wow. So yeah, I flew over there, and the race asked me to do a team race. Nice. So I raced with a male teammate, a friend of mine named Yuki Ikeda. Nice. He lives in Japan. Nice. But we were good friends when we both lived in Boulder, Colorado for a number of years.
Right on. That's awesome.
Yeah, so he came with me to do the race, and we spent a few days in Johannesburg, and a friend of the race promoter ended up hosting us. So their names were Tracy and Chris, and it was amazing staying at their house and kind of getting a feel for Joburg, as the locals call it. And there's an amazing bike shop there called Cycle Lab, and they're the biggest bike shop in South Africa. And they welcomed me with open arms, and like we did an event where like people came and like I talked about how bike racing and stage racing changes your life. Then we did this immense race, which was like probably 38 hours of mountain biking over 9 days. And it was pretty challenging, I have to say. But what I've learned about South Africa is that race organizations are amazing. It's like 5-star. They had Wi-Fi, they had an espresso bar, they had free laundry. I mean, they had dessert tables like as big as my kitchen. Like it was an incredible race.
Wow.
So yeah, it finished up in Scottsburg. And then after the race, there's this amazing travel agency called Game On Travel. And they offer safaris and travel logistics, not only for cyclists, but for people in all different industries. So Yuki and I went on a safari. So it's basically like Jurassic Park. You end up driving, there's an electric fence that you have to drive through. And you get out of your car and you leave it and you get into this Jeep, and the game driver has like a huge gun and tells you not to stand up, not to like get out of the car, tells you all the rules. And you stay in this like private game lodge where there's another electric fence around there to keep the animals out, because outside that electric fence are lions and leopards and hippopotamus and like anything you could possibly imagine.
Nice.
So you did 2 game drives per day, one early in the morning. So I thought that my early morning woes were over, but no, we were getting up at 5:30 in the morning to go on these game drives, which is fine. And then they had like a tea time / cocktail hour, and then you go out in the evening again on these game drives. So we saw like some crazy animals. And the most interesting story that happened actually was that I grew up in New Mexico. I lived there until I was 22, and I'd only been mountain biking for 2 years before I left. So I kind of discovered mountain biking, in the early stages when I lived in Albuquerque. And the third race I ever did was put on by this guy, this husband and wife, Ken and Jessica Kissel. And Jessica was also a professional rider at the time in New Mexico. And I hadn't seen or heard of them since I moved away in 2005. And there was a couple from New Mexico I had heard at the stage race. I didn't really think anything of it though. Like I couldn't find them, and I figured I probably didn't know them anyway. And then on this safari, it ends up being Ken and Jessica Kissel from 10 years ago, who I haven't seen and who are at the race. So what are the odds of that? Like there's 2 of us meeting 2 other people who we have no idea who they are on a safari. And there are 2 people I knew from New Mexico from like the beginning of my cycling career.
Well, just how small the world is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. And I mean, it was probably like you connected the dots, like you probably, had just seen them like just yesterday, I would imagine.
Yeah, I remember them instantly, but I just was so shocked because, I mean, that's so random.
Yeah. That is amazing. And I have to say that even just like traveling inside the States alone is enough of a nuisance at time. When you are away from home and stuff like that. And I mean, I think that, like I said, I mean, one of the things that I have to say, that I admire about you is that you're, that no matter what, you're going from, venue A to venue B, but, clearly it's in a different country. So, there's all of, the stuff that you need. Like I'm like, oh, no problem. I need a pump. I'm going to just go into my garage and get it. Or, hey, a bike stand, or, oh, wait, I need more sealant for, my tubeless tires. I'm just going to go down the basement. Right. So it's like, you're talking, for our listener audience, I mean, you're talking about stage races. Okay. So it's a multiple day after day effort. I mean, very much, I guess, if we want to reference like the Tour de France, for example, or, in like here in New England, there's the Killington Stage Road Race or whatever. So like each day, there's a different segment of the race. So, in Sonya's particular instance, I mean, I have to imagine, I mean, it sounds like you were covering some pretty extensive distances. So I mean, when you were bringing all of your stuff, right, or your accoutrements with you, how in the world did you even like begin to pack and say, oh yeah, I'm gonna need this, no problem? I mean, were you just like, all right, well, I'll bring what I need, or was there's a thought train behind it or some thinking? I mean, like, how do you get there? How do you get your bike there, your stuff? I mean, how's all that work? It just seems like, man, I wouldn't even know where to begin.
So my background is actually in engineering, and people make fun of me because I have my spreadsheets and yesterday I was trying to see how high I could jump to see if I could give a Reggie Miller or a Jack a high five if I could actually reach if I jumped. So I was actually had the tape measure out trying to calculate how high I could jump and how tall they would be. It was so funny. So that's a side note, but I created a spreadsheet and I wrote down everything that I thought I would need. And I've been stage racing for years. So this spreadsheet has been something that's been growing. It's been a living thing over the last several years. But I have the basics, okay, you break it down. What do you need? You're shoe, chamois, helmet, gloves, the basics of what you need to be wearing and how many of those you need to bring. And then I meticulously pack each cycling kit, each complete kit in its own Ziploc bag. That way, because in a race, you're not unpacking in a dresser. You have this massive duffel bag, and you're always moving. So being as organized as you can is really key. So just pulling out your Ziploc bag with the clothes you have to wear for the morning, so you're not screwing around, stressing about missing the race start because you can't find your chamois. So packing that, figuring out what kind of tools you might need. Topeak makes a wide range of amazing compact tools. So I have a tool list of things that I bring. And most recently, they have all these different cool torque wrenches. And stuff always comes loose because you're riding the crap out of your bike. And stuff is, so yeah, being able to check the torque on your bolts after a couple days is really helpful. And then I have my food list. So I calculate how many gels I'm going to need. And the food is actually what takes up the most amount of weight in your luggage. Really? Airlines love this, right? The airlines charge you. They make you take stuff out of the pounds. So my sports nutrition, I ended up having to check an extra bag because for a 9-day race, you end up taking 10 to 20 pounds of sports nutrition because you want to bring your own gels, powders, bars. It's kind of disgusting if you think about the amount of food that you eat during the stage race. Not only sport nutrition, which I actually have some really tasty bits of race food that I actually want to eat just for fun. But I don't.
Right.
Because then I'll be on a caffeine and a sugar high. So yeah, just making sure that you have a list of everything, and then I check stuff off. And then if you're camping, that's a whole other thing. You got to bring your sleeping bag and make sure you have everything, a headlamp. So just keeping things organized is key for making sure that you don't forget anything. And then for taking your bike, there's a number of companies that make bike suitcases. I have an Ebike case and I like it, but there's a bunch of other brands that you could also get. But yeah, you take your bike apart, and I've gotten pretty proficient at building and unbuilding my bike because I do it every couple of weeks. And it goes on the plane, and they charge you tons of money, and the airlines again are rejoicing. Yay!
Right.
And hopefully it comes out on the other side. So, and then when you're at the airport, everybody, suddenly people are really curious, right? People that normally wouldn't talk to you or whatever, they're like, "What's in the bag? What's that?" And I had some interesting people or interesting things is that a tuba? Or,
yeah,
you definitely get tired of I'm very happy to talk to people and to tell them what's in my bag, but on a trip you hear it at least 10 to 20 times. What's in the bag?
You're I can imagine.
And it says bike travel bag on it too.
Yeah.
That's so when all this is going on, and by the way, there's this serendipity relationship that's going on with you and Gunner. He's super Mr. Spreadsheet guy. So you're totally talking his language because he gets that kind of stuff. Me, I'm like, oh my God, shiny object. I'll be right back. Yeah. But no, in all seriousness, that's fantastic. And it really helps me get that big picture of how well organized that you need to be. Now you're in a unique situation for our listener audience, and that you're not on this mega team. You don't have like a huge roster of fellow athletes, or the super big mega company bringing like the stupid ridiculous like Magna rig down there and supporting you.
That would be nice.
and by the way, that's like a whole nother conversation for the listener audience to dig into detail. I mean, I have to say that again, super impressed in this day and age. Number one, that you're doing that. You made a huge shift in your lifestyle, your thought, your thought training, your mentality to say, all right, well, I'm going to do this. And by the way, we'll talk on that in a little bit later in the show. But man, I mean, that in itself it's just huge. I mean, how in the world are you able to focus on? I don't want to say doing it solo. Well, it is solo, but wow. I mean, how are you able to pull that off? Because it's a huge undergoing, not just so much for the obvious with getting the stuff there, but yourself, your time, the monies, the funding. I mean, wow, like how is all that happening?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, I do know it's just never been something that has been a major obstacle. The idea of it, like when I want to do something, I just go do it, and it's kind of, I don't know. It's just how I've always been. If I really want to do something, I find ways to make it happen, and anybody can do that, really. I mean, you just put your mind to it, and you start planning, and you start working in that direction, and it doesn't always happen overnight. I mean, it took me probably 10 years of my cycling career to get to where I am now, and it took a lot of hard work.
I bet.
Yeah. So how I do it is I'm a self-managed professional athlete. So previously I was on a team, and it helped me grow to where I am today. But I outgrew my position on the team. And,
sure.
And it's hard when somebody else is kind of in charge of your own destiny whenever you know what you're capable of. So at the time I was working a full-time job, and I was also on this team. And it was holding me back. And I had to take a big step, and I had to say, okay, like my job and my team were kind of tied up in one, because I was working for a company in the bike industry that owned the team I was on. So I couldn't be on a different team and work for this company, and vice versa. Like they were together. They're mutually inclusive, I guess.
Right.
So I thought, okay, well, I know that I'm really good at marketing, and I love it. It's like one of my favorite things in the entire world. So I'm just going to quit my job and quit my team, and I'm going to write all my own proposals and create my own partnerships and find ways to deliver value that isn't based on race results. It's based on content creation, connecting with people, building community, showing things that I like in a productive and non-commercially way, because the stuff that I use is stuff that I love and stuff that I would be buying if I didn't get it for free. And the great thing about being a solo athlete is that if you're on a team, they tell you what to ride. They're like, okay, like you're on this team, you're riding this bike, this drivetrain, these wheels, you're wearing these clothes. Right. Now go tell everybody that these are awesome.
Sure.
And like, you probably like some of it you might not like so much. And I didn't really like that. So I was happy that I could go with stuff that I wanted to use. And wow, what kind of freedom is that? So yeah, it really helped me take my racing to the next level, because number one, I was able to quit my job. So I previously was traveling all the time for work. So it was really hard to have any type of solid training regime. And number two, the equipment I was using was stuff that worked, and stuff that I loved, and stuff that was just fun to ride. So I tend to partner with brands that understand the value in adventure travel, and like that. And of course I go and I try to win races, and I do the best I can there. And I do think that if you were just to compare me to other athletes based on results, I would be a stand-up athlete compared to like the average person. But where I think that the longevity in my career is in marketing, and in being able to connect with brands on an individual level, figure out how to make my story fit into theirs and how I can bring value to them, and be constantly evolving that. So that is like more exciting to me than training. And I actually end up spending more time on the business of being an athlete entrepreneur and a marketing professional than I do training and racing, because I just think it's really fun, and connecting with people is the best, because there's like, you have no idea the effect that you have on people when you just start doing what you love. Like the positive energy that you're putting out there really does change the world.
Exactly. That's awesome.
Thanks for the high five.
Yeah, no. Right. Hey, Gunnar, you got a little bit of an echo. I don't know if that's you or me. Are you still there? Can you say something?
Testing. 1, 2, testing.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Cool. Good.
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah, no, you're good. So that, I mean, that's just, again, I totally get that, and I love it. I think it's awesome. I know that I've shared a number of your tweets and posts with Gunnar. I'm harassing Gunnar constantly about getting on a Snapchat, by the way.
Yeah.
Hint.
I'm holding on.
But in all seriousness, I think two things that are very exciting about this whole situation. I think that number one, I feel like the industry needs more Sonya Loonies. I feel like you are, putting yourself out there and saying, look, this is who I am, take it or leave it. It is what it is. But I feel like every day, you have this, pay it forward attitude. I feel like, when we talk about social media, we talk about, any of the various platforms, live streaming, what it is, I can say that, a good majority, if not all, of the content that you're putting out, there's a, a minor or major thread of you that's like, hey, this is a positive comment about this, or this person's doing this, or I'm doing this. Like, I feel like, that to me has a lot of traction. First of all, from your viewer audience, your fans, whatever whatever you want to call it. I do agree with you 100%, and that the days of the sponsor me videos and oh well, we're brand ABC and we're associated with the greatest team ever. I feel like consumers or the social media viewer audience doesn't really care about those types of metrics anymore. I feel like they, if you're doing so much good in this world and just bringing so much value add to the table, right? They can't not notice you, right? And I feel like that, you're doing such a phenomenal job being able to put that type of information out there. It is very genuine. It's not canned. It's not bullshit. It's just like, hey, this is what I'm doing. People can't not, but pay attention to you. For example, I actually did take a few moments and watch that TEDx that you did, by the way. Didn't even know that you were on TEDx, and I just happened. I do catch TEDx from time to time about various things, and I was like, I was like totally blown away. I mean, I took a few minutes and I was just like, this was something that to me was so different, to see an athlete such as yourself to kind of switch gears and, make yourself available in front of that type of, venue, and I think to me that's incredible, because for a couple of reasons is, you're showing, the very, raw, human emotions of like, I am just like you, Mrs. Customer or Mr. Customer or Mrs. Viewer, Mr. Viewer, and I have ups, I have downs, I have highs, I have lows, I have dreams and visions just like you, but here they are. And I mean, when I was like, going through this, I was just like, wow. I mean, I literally felt like I was going through, that experience with you. And it was very uplifting to, obviously get to end of that and say, this is an amazing story, because, it obviously shows, an athlete such as yourself, being very well grounded, being very well level-headed, but also being human enough to share, your stories with you. And again, I feel like, for individuals like yourself, I mean, there's no question in my mind, that the future that you have, not just so much in the cycling industry, which by the way, as being in a, a marketing perspective, you can take it any number of different directions. But I think, you're staying in your lane, you're being very, true to who you are. And I would say, make no mistake about it. I feel like brands are waking up to that and saying, wow, this, Sonya, she is totally on point, and she totally gets it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, public speaking is a big part of what I've been doing the last several years. And last year was a year where I just sort of said, okay, I've been speaking in the bike industry for a long time. I've been doing like mentoring sessions. I've been doing storytelling sessions around the United States. But I really want to be a speaker because I love connecting with people. And I'm not afraid of getting up in front of a room of 1,000 people and talking. Like it makes me feel exhilarated and excited. And I love being able to see people's faces and see how they're reacting. And so last year I was able to be a public speaker at lots of different conferences outside the bike industry. Like I spoke at an entrepreneurship conference, a leadership and business conference, a tech conference, TEDx, a number of other conferences. So it's just fun for me because it's a chance to connect with people who may or may not be cyclists. And everybody that's a cyclist, like most of us here, I'm sure, are watching are cyclists. And we all share that common hobby, right? And it's a really special hobby to share because it's a community and it's an international community that we're all a part of. And it's something that when cyclists have something in common, like they're really friendly to one another. And it doesn't matter what your income level is. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. It doesn't matter how old you are. When you're a cyclist, you're just a cyclist. And it's just a great community to share with everybody. So my goal is to get more people into our world, people that are interested in challenging themselves and being outside, because the things that you see on your bike, you can't see those walking. Like you just wouldn't be able to cover that type of distance. You're not going to see it on a four-wheeler. And conversely, the stuff you see walking, you're probably not going to see on your bike because you're going too fast. So being able to slow down is also important.
Definitely.
But I just love talking to people, like, period, because it's just fun to tell my story, but also to hear theirs.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, hey, I noticed that you are endorsing Strava on your website, SonyaLooney.com. By the way, check that out if the listener audience, you haven't had a chance to check it out. My TED Talk
is on there, guys, if you want to watch my TED Talk on SonyaLooney.com.
Yeah, absolutely. Anello linked it up to the right, listener audience, if you want to check that out. That is awesome, by the way, a must watch. So I'm going to kind of shift gears because I know like Gunner's like, he's like totally geeking out. I know he wants to go here. Gunner is, by the way, I think he's like a self-proclaimed Strava expert. He like loves it. Yeah. We've had folks on the show that have done extended modules, Stravistics, and things like that. And I mean, like if you talk about somebody that takes Strava to like the next level, it's totally this guy. So what, like, you know, there's a couple layers of where I'm going with this, but what's your takeaway on being an athlete and, you know, Strava per se? Like obviously you're endorsing it, so you're pro Strava, but I guess sort of give us your kind of, you know, big picture perspective on it. Because like as I said, where I'm going with this is there's a couple recent things as far as topics that we talked about on Bike Chat. I'd be interested to kind of get your feedback and your perspective on.
Yeah, sure. So I'll disclose Strava is not a sponsor of mine. I pay for my premium membership on there.
Gotcha.
I just want to. But, you know, Strava is a controversial platform, I would say. And I think people take it to the next level sometimes, like a little bit too far. But personally, like if you like Strava, and I don't care the reason that you like Strava. Everybody likes it. Everybody's on there for a different reason, right? But I enjoy Strava for my own reasons in that I get to track my progress mostly on the downhills, actually, because when I'm riding, like I don't just like go ballistic. Like a lot of my rides, I'm having fun. I don't like going hard all the time. Like people seem to think that if you're a professional racer, you're always out there just hammering your brains out. And I hardly ever hammer my brains out. Like if I do, it's like for intervals and it's only maybe like maybe once or twice a week. But if you're trying to work on something, I like looking at my results. And I moved to British Columbia about 3 years ago and I sucked. Like I couldn't ride the downhill. I was like walking and it was like the most humbling thing ever because I had been a pro rider and I thought I was good. Like I didn't think I was good, but I thought I was okay on the downhill. And in British Columbia, things are so steep that you're either walking or you're riding. There's no in between because there's no stopping and getting off your bike once you get going on some of these downhills. So I made it my my mission to get really like a lot better on the downhill and to make it and turn my weakness into my strength.
Nice.
So I've spent the last 3 years working on descending more than I have on fitness or on climbing or on anything else.
Wow.
So I love going out and shredding the downhill to see if I'm getting better. Or you can see, are these tires faster than the other tires I was using or whatever? And I actually have done my first enduro this year, and it was in New Zealand, and it was a blast. Nice. But, you know, that said, people can take Strava too far. They can be mean to people on the Strava segment, and it's like, chill out. It's just Strava. For me, I race a lot, so I'm not racing people on Strava. I'm racing myself. So it's not a big deal. But some people go out there specifically to beat your time, which is kind of funny because you're assuming that the person that you're racing was at their best. But it just doesn't matter. Like, what I tell people is like, oh, if they start going crazy on Strava, it's like, you know what? If you want to race, show up to the start line, put the number plate on, and let's rumble. Like, that's cool. But don't be a dick. And like, use it for purposes that are for good, like for connecting with people or like hooking up with people. Like I've met people in my local community because of Strava and gone riding with them. And that's really cool. So it really just depends on where you want to look. I mean, you could take anything that's controversial and focus on the negative and just start spreading around, you know, stirring up the pot and causing problems. Or you could just use it for what you like and just say, you know what, people are going to be jerks. Like, screw them.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think, Anello, I think, was it that you brought up, gosh, were you talking? You were talking about last show. It was like what, mechanical doping or something, like Strava doping or something.
Doping or something. Yeah, there's people that actually cheat to get the KOMs on Strava, and it's all ridiculous. I mean, people use mopeds and they'll put they'll leave their Garmin on in their car or whatever. It does it's pretty ridiculous. And I think, Sonya, you hit the nail on the head by saying, you know, if you want to race, then actually sign up for a race and do a race, because
go race.
I mean, yeah, you get a little bit of competitiveness out in Strava, but it's not really a race. I mean, there's so many other factors that go in. I mean, just the wind itself, if you're on the road, you can get a KOM because the wind's at your back and it's just perfect that day, and
right. Nobody
nobody else can touch it. And, you know, you won't have conditions like that for another 20 years or something. So,
yeah.
Like, it's not a measure of how good of an athlete you are necessarily.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally agree.
I think this actually can, if you want to like boil this way down, it could be like where people get their self-worth. And I see this in racing a lot. Like, if you want to just boot Strava out of this, and we'll bring it back in a second. When your self-worth comes from how fast you are, that's really dangerous, because that means that you're going to be like a jerk to somebody else if they're threatening how fast you are, number one.
Yeah.
And on Strava, if you're like cheating on Strava, then that means you're getting your self-worth from Strava because you feel like you need to cheat in order to beat other people. And it shouldn't be about beating other people. It should be about being your best self.
Right.
In racing and on Strava. But you know what? Like, it's just have a sense of humor about it. Like, if someone beats your KOM because they're on a moped or like they're cheating or whatever, then who cares? Yeah. Like, who cares?
Right. So I mean, you know, and again, I think that, you know, without question, I mean, we've said this before. I mean, this could clearly be an entire show, and I certainly wasn't intending it to be that it's Strava focused. But, you know, one of the interesting, cheers. I mean, one of the interesting things about sort of where this whole, you know, evolvement is going is or Gunnar and myself as well. I think right now, you know, we're kind of like, you know, doing sort of one of these with the whole e-bike world. And, you know, I just watched, yeah, well, no, but it's funny. I just watched a video review of somebody reviewing, you know, one of, I guess, specialized dual suspension trail e-bikes, but there's like a park-wide ban on e-bikes, and where I'm going with this, and I'll bear with me here, is there is a concern that because they don't understand the overall impact of this technology across the board, right, that they're banning the use of e-bikes in most parks. But ready for this? The worry, okay, and the concern is that like somebody will like, jailbreak an electric bike so that like literally it becomes, an off-road motorcycle. Now, like, I mean, whatever. I mean, it agreed this could be a complete, a total can of worms, and that's not really why I'm trying to bait the conversation. But like that ties back into Strava. I mean, you and Sonya, you said it. It's like great if I myself or you, whatever, in the best shape that we're in, or trying to focus on descents, or even just getting out to make a normal Saturday ride. We do
like whatever you're trying to work on.
And then all of a sudden, some wingnut does the same loop on an e-bike. I mean, it's going to be completely different stats, completely different results. And like you said, to your point about Strava, no question about it. It is what it is. I think where the next part of that's going is kind of talking about the whole e-bike thing. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, like, for example, if like, I think it's what, Scott, right there, one of your sponsors, Scott Bikes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like, let's say Scott Bikes tapped you on the shoulder and said, hey, we have an e-bike, an e dual suspension bike. I mean, like, would you take that bike and say, all right, same time, same bat channel, Africa Adventure Race 2017. I mean, would you take that bike and legitimately enter in it and try to do essentially the same feat as you did this year?
No, because that takes away the fun of like being a bike racer. Like I don't race motorcycles. I like the personal challenge of self-propelling myself from point A to point B.
Yeah.
But if they gave me an e-bike for commuting, I would take it in a second, because I do ride my commuter bike around, and like my legs are tired a lot of the time because I race so much. So sometimes I end up driving because I'm like, oh, I don't want to ride my bike.
Right.
And if I had an e-bike though, and I have to admit that sometimes I do fantasize about having an e-bike when I'm like practicing, like doing like shuttling, like, but you got to ride yourself up to the top. So like when you're practicing descending, but you can't take a shuttle, which I actually have never shuttled before and I really want to.
Good idea.
It's like, oh, I gotta like ride up here to ride the downhill again. And this is like blasphemy from anybody who knew me like 5 years ago when I lived in Colorado and all I wanted to do was ride uphill. These words would not have escaped my lips 5 years ago, but now I'm like, oh, I just want to ride the downhill. I don't want to ride uphill again. So, it would be kind of fun to have an e-bike in that regard. But like, if you're going to have an e-bike race.
Right.
And if you want to race e-bikes, go race e-bikes. Like,
right.
Go race your e-bike, but you're not allowed to race e-bike in a non-e-bike category. Like you wouldn't race a motorcycle, like a dirt bike at a mountain bike race. And a dirt bike is a whole other level of an e-bike, of course. But, there was an e-bike race at Sea Otter this year and I saw it and I thought it'd be kind of fun to partake. I didn't partake in it because it was too much, too many inputs to do it. But like if people want to e-bike race, like fine.
Right.
But I can understand the concern of crossing over the line of motorized vehicles, in a public space, on a trail, right. in a bike, in a park, because that does bring up issues.
Exactly.
It's building more trail and keeping trails open, but it's a new thing, right? I'm sure that it'll get figured out.
Right.
It's just being flexible and not like not hating too much, like people tend to just get too like wound up about stuff.
Right.
I think looking at the facts objectively and then you can have your own opinion, of course, but yeah.
Right. Well, and I think, I know that, and maybe that's here in the United States too, but I know in Europe they have actual categories. So e-bikes is like something up to, I can't remember what the wattage is. And then from whatever that wattage is to something else, they're considered e-mopeds. And then over, I think it's 4,000 watts, it's considered an e-motorcycle. And so, that would be one way that for public spaces. If
e-motorcycles, is that what you just said?
No, there's e-motorcycles.
What if you were riding an e-motorcycle smoking an e-cigarette? What would that be called?
I'm sure that happens every day. No, but so for public trails, if you say, okay, well, bikes and e-bikes are allowed, well, then that already kind of gives that designation that e-bikes are okay, because most e-bikes, or actually all e-bikes that I know of, are pedal assist and they're under a certain amount of wattage, and so
Right.
they're going to basically their impact is going to be the same as a mountain bike. But then crossing over into the e-mopeds, or say somebody does hack their bike and jailbreaks it and gets that extra, I don't know, 100 or 200 watts out of it, people are going to possibly do that. And if they get caught, then they get caught. If they don't get caught, well, then, it's not at the end of the world. And of course, this isn't talking about competition. And like Sonya said, if people are going to race mountain bikes, then race mountain bikes. If you're going to race e-bikes, then race e-bikes. Which kind of leads me to another thing. I read an article recently that at the Sea Otter race, there was an entrant that was on a regular race mountain bike, and he placed, I think, right in the middle of the pack in the e-bike race.
That would be kind of a fun thing to do, is be like, screw you guys, I'm just going to ride my regular bike and see what happens.
The challenge is,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just think that, and just another cyclist chimed in and said, I don't disagree, but to play devil's advocate, where's the line between the e-bike and the uber expensive ultralight top of the line race bike? Well, and by the way, hey, I mean, I think we Ross, I think we kind of sort of touched on that, is that, obviously Gunnar mentioned it, same thing with Sonya is, an e-bike per se, has pedal assist on it. You know what I mean? Let's just that in itself. I mean, take any high-end bike, whatever brand, Scott, Giant, Trek, Specialized. I mean, if you have their, super high-end bike, doesn't matter how much it weighs. Sonya had mentioned it. It is it's pedal power, and I agree with you. I have yet to personally test ride an e-bike. I mean, I'm hoping to do so soon, just to see what it's all about. But I mean, Sonya, for your your point about shuttling or commuting, I get that. I talked to a couple people that have e-bikes they use for commuting. They're like, greatest thing ever. They're like, you know what? I take a 10 mile a 10-mile commute. It's like boom, it's like butter. So I mean, there's a lot of different things that, we could certainly spend hours and hours talking about, but I feel like it is definitely one of those things, it's sort of like it's slowly but surely starting to encroach and impact the bike industry. And I truly believe and hope that it is for the positive. You know what I'm saying? I truly think that, like you said, Sonya, I mean, we can find a lot of, controversy and debate, fodder here and there. We, i.e. here on Bike Chat, are trying to take that, progressive, positive attitude where I agree. I want these bikes to coexist. And, Gunnar had done a great vlog, by the way. If you guys check that out, he was kind of talking about how he feels that, if there are people that maybe aren't necessarily in, okay, perfect example. Sonya, I will be flat out honest with you. If we showed up on our trails, you'd probably blow my doors off. I mean, on like a bad day, I'd still probably not be able to catch you. But here's the point. Okay, let's say I'm like you, i.e., are on your pedal assist Scott, right? And I'm on an e-dual trail bike, right? And for me, I'm not really able to be on your tail, but I'm able to keep up with you. I think that the reality of it is we are both having fun riding. You're doing your thing, having your fun riding your bike. I'm able to keep up with you because, I have 3 kids. I have, a full-time job. I'm not able to clearly devote as much time to riding. So, I mean, that, I think that's a scenario, Gunnar, that you kind of threw out there. And that's one of which that I agree. And that, I'm thinking to myself, this is a great way for somebody to have, a good time on, riding a bike. Now, again, that said, I don't want to say, you can't go out there and do it the good old fashioned way and burn a sweat and get out there and pedal a bike. You know what I mean? I just, again, it is a can of worms, and I don't want to sit there and open up this really, Pandora's box of a comment, but I feel like that's something that at least as far as where my thought train's coming from, I guess makes most sense,
It's going to be a big topic. I mean, that's all I can say. It's going to, whether we like them or not, they're happening. And so it's,
So anyway, I feel like,
and not to the user who asked a question or made a comment about super lightweight bikes. Like in road biking, there is a limit on how light your bike is allowed to be. And I mean, that's also a rule, right? Your road bike's not, I think it's 15 pounds. You're not allowed to have it less than that. E-bikes racing, like you obviously aren't allowed to race an e-bike in a pedal category. And I actually don't think e-bikes should be on the course at the same time as people pedaling because it's like really demoralizing to get passed by an e-bike.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, we are at the top of the hour already. My goodness, where did time go? Certainly got a little bit more heavier in the e-bikes than we really wanted to. But folks, it's been a pleasure to have Sonya Looney on the show. Again, don't forget, check out Sonya on the various social platforms, SonyaLooney.com, to see what she is up to. And don't forget, those folks on Snapchat, please feel free to give her a follow. Also, two in reminders, don't forget to jump on and join the Bike Chat Facebook page. Also, Gunnar does a great job running Craft Beer Blab Tuesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to check that out as well. If you want to watch all the replays and recaps, you can jump on to his Blab site to follow up with what has been going on there. In the meantime, do want to take a few minutes and remind folks this coming week, actually I should say next week, we will actually have one of our folks that is in the house right now, just another cyclist. They will be on the show. Mr. Ross, what is going on? Excited to have you on the show. Appreciate your time, and thank you so much for our listener audience for viewing. Sonya, I really want to say on behalf of Bike Chat and the Bike Chat audience, it was a pleasure to have you on the show. You are a true inspiration, and I think that this could be like a Bike Chat that could go on for hours about, many of the fascinating things that you are not only up to, but just how much of an inspiration you are. So that said, I just want to, again, personally thank you and just let you know that at any time, if you wish to return and come back on the show, please don't hesitate to let us know.
Great. Thanks a lot. Thanks, everyone, for listening, too.
Perfect. All right, Gunnar, listen, before we pull the plug, anything you got to throw out there for our listener audience tonight?
Well, I did have one last question for Sonya. What's your favorite beer or style of beer that you enjoy?
I knew you'd go there.
That was a hard question to ask, my friend. That's like asking me what my favorite trail is. I like IPA. I'm an IPA girl. I love hops. I don't know. I can't say a favorite IPA because there's so many IPAs.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, maybe you need to make a VIP appearance on Gunnar's show on some Tuesday night, and you guys can have the great guessing game as far as which particular craft beer does Sonya Looney like. I mean, that could be.
or you could ask me, am I thinking of starting my own brewery?
Oh, nice. Ooh, awesome.
I'm in. I would. That would be an entirely good show as well. All right.
Looking at starting the brewery though. So if anybody's interested in investing, we are looking for investors. So I'm just going to throw that out there.
Wow.
Oh my God! If that wasn't a hint for somebody that could be a great guest on Craft Beer Blab, I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, hey, listener audience, I'm going to pull the plug. I'm going to take us off live. As I said, if you're just watching this on replay, thank you so much for joining us. Bike Chat every Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with my awesome co-host, Gunnar Soros. Check him out. He does a great show. Tuesdays, Craft Beer Blab. This show was dedicated to Sonya Looney having the time to spend with Bike Chat. Thank you so much. I'm taking us off the air. Until then, everybody, have an excellent evening.